So, well, this isn't really like a dark video per se or anything. It's just like, in case anyone wanted to know what was up, like what was going on, like what's on my mind or anything. And while some of it might be, it's probably just going to be hard to listen to, but it's nowhere near like, anything controversial going on. It's just like, what's been going on with my mind, and, it's just going to be, it's going to be fine. It might be hard for people to stomach, but it's not like, I'm saying things that aren't PC, if that makes sense. So, as time has gone on, it's become apparent to me that, like, for some reason, a lot of people often associate vulgarity with maturity. And that's not the case at all. Like, I want to openly speak up, and not just for myself, but for anyone. Like, if anything, like, I'm trying to make a stand, if that makes sense. If anyone ever tells you to man up, if like, they're talking to a guy, or to act like an adult or whatever, but also those people at the exact same time are doing nothing but watching or playing disturbing content full of gore, swearing, nudity, whatever, they have no idea what the frick they're talking about in the slightest. I don't think anyone else seems to notice how much of a problem that actually is, and this is more or less what can be boiled down to. Again, vulgarity and maturity are not the same thing. Neither are mine, you, and I have no reason to be ashamed of, and that's why I'm not ashamed to openly admit that whenever I say that I'm a man-child, it's not the stereotypical assumption that people often throw around. Yeah, the obvious quote-unquote joke, whenever someone says, this person is a man-child or whatever, the obvious punchline, or what people think is a punchline, is, oh, man-child, oh, ha ha ha, this person wears diapers and sucks their thumb, whatever. And I'm just like, that's what 5-year-olds do, not what children do anymore. Because, as we develop, we let go of those habits, for the most part anyway. Like, I am aware of those people who hold on to, like, those habits for a very, very long time, but that's a bit off topic. Back on topic, no, whenever I say that I'm a man-child, I literally mean that I am childish, not babyish. There is a complete and drastic difference. Like, I'm always willing to crack jokes, make people smile, but when I know when to be mature, and again, not the stereotypical assumption of what maturity actually is. I'm civilized, chivalrous, and I do know when to be quiet. I do not talk all the time. Like, it's why I spend most of my time, especially more nowadays, keeping to myself, thinking of video ideas, playing video games, playing electronic games, listening to music, and reading books. I think I mentioned this before in a few videos back, but lately I've been reading a lot of books about history and philosophy. Those philosophical books really hit close to home, but not in like a masochistic way. Like, it's something that I'm willing to accept. And speaking of that, and this isn't like me talking about it in a religious context, so pardon me before anyone jumps the gun and assumes that, I finally accepted that I will one day die. I have more or less accepted that fate. And again, not being religious, it's literally just acceptance, if that makes sense. I don't want to get like into un-PC territory. I don't want to do that. Like, if anything, I'm simply trying to say that I want to make the most of my life. I want to enjoy the things and the people who surround my daily life. Like, and this is the advice part that I wanted to bring up. And again, making a stand, not preaching whatever, but like, if anything, like, all that's happened in, like, what? Like, the history of history itself, like, everything just amounts to, why are we doing this? Why are we causing conflict, wars, and all this stuff? Like, I know the whole why can't we just, get along thing is it's misinterpreted as sappy, saccharine, and cliche, whatever. But I feel like, and from my own experience, to post a perspective or opinion, it's more or less out of how overset of a sentiment that actually is, if that makes sense. Back to the vulgarity thing real quick, like, and I know I'm not alone, and not in like the, oh, people, take my side, whatever, that's really selfish, but, like, if we're talking about music, like, I've heard so many rappers and hip-hop artists claim that they're being all deep and emotional and talking about, no, singing about conflicts that they had when they were young or whatever. But then you realize at the exact same time how hypocritical they're actually being, for the most part. I will admit, not all of them. Because they have the gall to point, they have the audacity to claim that they're being all deep and emotional, but also being as vulgar and as insensitive as possible. I'm not actually ranting about this. If anything, I've actually been very quiet about this for a long time. And that's kind of the thing, too. Like, I don't want to be, afraid of, sharing how I feel about, morality, again, philosophical implications, and, the choices that we make and the actions that we do and the things that we say, that's on us. Like, we make our own choices. And, like, again, the whole music example thing, like, again, like, I'm just so numb to this at this point. Like, the whole stereotype of rap and hip-hop just having to be filled to the brim with as much sexist, racist stuff as possible, just to pander to whatever audience, and just to get that parental warning label. It doesn't visually disgust me or anything, but it does disgust me in the way that it's just very, very frowned upon. Like, again, I think I mentioned this before, but didn't we as a society kind of agree that swearing is frowned upon? And before people even assume that, I'm being a baby about this, whatever, no, I don't expect anything and everything, whatever, to be all squeaky clean, whatever. No, like, again, it's all, based on chivalry and being civilized. I don't know if I mentioned this, but it's telling when I was, like, I think about 10 years old, that's around the time that I learned to stop swearing. And, again, I am 27 years old. So, yeah, the whole stereotype of maturity and vulgarity being associated with each other is something that I do not support, nor do I respect. Because, like, another thing that's probably connected to that problem is the whole, and people have probably seen this too, like, not just the whole, rap and hip-hop being vulgar and shocking, whatever, because pandering, but, like, oh, pardon that, but, like, and I do mean realistically, despite the fact this only sounds sarcastic, but, like, and aside from, like, the FPS genre, how many M-rated games can you think of that aren't just filled to the brim with, like, blood, gore, swearing, and anything that is offensive as possible? Like, the whole stereotype with that, and it's actually a huge problem, is that the requirement to get the M rating is to be as shocking as possible. And to that, my counter-arguments are the Zero Escape visual novel series and the Metal Gear Solid series of games, respectively. Because, like, especially that last one, you want to know why the Metal Gear Solid series of games is rated M? It's not for the stereotypical reason. It's actually because those games are really good at ongoing narratives, really engaging and endearing characters, and tackling serious subject matters like war, terrorism, and things that are very hard for anyone to talk about. And that's why I really do love those kinds of games. Like, I feel like people in general would benefit from, like, they'd have more positive and optimistic perspective and more, not opinion, but view of the world and its inhabitants in general if we start getting more media like that. Another example that actually comes to mind would probably be The Last of Us, and by extension, The Last of Us Part 2. Like, yeah, there's kind of mild swearing in that game, in that series, and I think the Metal Gear Solid series does that as well, so I don't want to be like a hypocrite, whatever. But even then, that's not like the main focus of those games. The main focus of those games, it's not pandering to get the M rating, it's really good at storytelling. Again, The Last of Us and the Metal Gear Solid series by extension. And, like, every time I like hear that someone is, like, playing an M-rated game that's just shocking, or listening to rap or hip-hop music, and, all that, like, pretty much a majority of that, not all of it, is filled to the brim with sexist terms, racist slurs, and whatever, and swearing. It doesn't piss me off, it just, again, I'm so numb to this. Like, both of those forms of media, pretty much any form of media, actually, does not have to be shocking. Because, again, it amounts to what we see as acceptable changes rapidly over time, and that does include things from the past as well. Like, there are some things from the past that do not survive today. And I'm not sure if I actually elaborate on this, but I think I point out in that Who is Sir Bop-A-Lot video thing that I made, what was it, a few days ago? I think it was like 3 days ago or something, how music actually prevented my suicide. I didn't mean, like, you know, in that stereotypical way, you know, like, you hear a lot of angsty teenagers say, "Oh, music changed my life, man." I didn't mean it like that in the slightest. A majority of people that I tell that to often assume that that's what I'm trying to say, and they assume that I'm joking around. No, I literally meant that music openly prevented my suicide. And that's actually another thing that I have to point out, like, ignoring the rap and hip-hop crap, like, it's not just the message, or I guess lyrics, that's important, but who it actually comes from. You know what I mean? And I literally have no shame in openly admitting this, and, you know, that's kind of the point, like, being more open, which is something that I see a lot of people, being afraid of doing is being open. But, the story in of itself is what led me to appreciate the smaller and simpler things in life. And I mean, like, more than just people, and also more than just, you know, physical objects, but nature, philosophical implications, morality. I've changed a lot throughout the past few years, and since 2016. Speaking of the 2016 incident, I guess I should go over that. Back in 2016, when I first started wearing an eye patch, I was bullied relentlessly. At first, that doesn't sound like a big deal, I know. Well, let me elaborate on that. Like, it got so bad to the point where I literally almost took my own life. I believe it was like with a sharp knife. I can't remember all the details. Like, I do remember that I almost committed suicide. In case you're wondering what got me to stop, it wasn't just music that saved my life. It was, what's that term? Like, it was literally like my own voice inside my head telling me to make a decision to, no, it was my voice inside my head telling me to stop and reevaluate and focus on the positive aspects of the world, including its inhabitants and the smaller things I wanted to and have begun to appreciate. And that was further elaborated on when I listened to the Imagine Dragons song "I Was Me." That's literally what I mean when I say that music openly prevented my suicide, and I'm not alone on that, so I'm not being hypocritical or one-sided. That'd be selfish and stupid. And that's also why I have no shame in saying that I love them as a result. Yeah, I just said that. I love Imagine Dragons, as people and as musicians. And before anyone even tries to imply or make a stupid joke at my expense that, because that's the obvious thing to say, "Oh, haha, he's in love with them." I haven't ever told anyone this before, but I've never been attracted to anyone, ever. This is actually because it's something that I see a lot of people ignore. Whenever I say I love someone or something, or whenever I use the term love at all, actually, you gotta keep in mind, love is also, and should be seen for the most part, as a form of appreciation. Like, there are things and people that I love and grow to appreciate a lot more. Like, whenever I say that, it's literally what it sounds like. Like, it's just me saying that I appreciate this person, or this thing, or this game, this story, whatever. Like, that's literally what I've been saying this whole time. And unlike a lot of people, oh, there goes my light, I know what's comfortable and what's not. I don't want to jump the gun and, make things uncomfortable. That would not make sense. That'd be creepy. Oh man, I've been talking so much. There is one more thing that I don't think I've ever told anyone on YouTube before, and this is going to be uncomfortable. It itself is controversial, but, like, what happened to me was controversial, but I was not, the result, like, I wasn't the one who caused the controversy, if that makes sense. Pardon me with the stuttering. Back in 11/29/2014, that's my birthday. Yeah, for those who don't know, in 2014, on my birthday, oh, I have no idea what that was. In my birthday in 2014, no joke, no exaggeration, not being hyperbolic in the slightest, I was literally a victim of blatant slavery. And I don't want to go beyond that, because if I did elaborate beyond that, that would not be acceptable. But if I had to, talk about what is acceptable, I literally had no free will. I didn't have time to have anything to eat or drink or even have, time to play a video game or something. In case anyone is curious, the last thing that happened is I literally fatigued and crashed on the ground. I remember nothing beyond that as a result. I literally crashed and I blacked out. I don't remember anything beyond that. So, what's the last thing I want to add to this? Probably, again, what I said at the beginning of the video, is how much I have changed and how much I've grown to appreciate the people and the things that surround my daily life. And I'm not being preachy about when I say this, but I wish, I just want people to, take my advice and, learn from my example. And while that sounds preachy, that's not my intention. This video is just a reminder to show how much I have changed and what actually goes on in my head behind the scenes when I'm not making videos or not playing video games or whatever. Pretty much just what goes on in Sir Bop-A-Lot's head. I'm probably one of the most interesting people you could ever meet. And no, I don't mean that in an egotistical way. Remind you, I said this before as well in that other video, I never have thought highly of myself in the slightest. I'm not an egotist, a narcissist. I have what's known as inferiority complex. So that's the reason why, I try to avoid, being proud of myself or anything that I've accomplished. It's why I always say, I feel good about myself or feel good about doing whatever thing has happened recently. So hopefully that clears anything that could be considered a potential controversy up. And with that being said, I think I'm going to wrap up this video. Anyway, I will see you all later. Sir Bop-A-Lot signing out.